What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to the beginning, anyway, of the final week of the CFL football regular season in 2021. This is another special Tuesday night football edition of one of my videos because, like we had back in, I think it was week 9. We have a 5-game week to end the season here in the CFL in 2021, week 16, and that kicks off on Tuesday night with the Edmonton Elks traveling to Toronto to take on the Argonauts. Now, obviously, a bunch of storylines around both of these teams, and because it's so early in the week, we don't have practice reports, we don't have anything really on this game. Let me know what you think about the setup, by the way. I'm out in my living room actually using a tripod this time rather than just shaky cam holding the phone in my hand. So let me know what you think of the setup this week, and I've got my notes on my handy dandy piece of paper here. So once again, Tuesday night football, Elks traveling to Toronto. Toronto comes into this game 3.5-point favorites, which seems like a weird line given their success over the rest of the season, especially at home. Total in the game set at 49.5 points, so a big total as well. You got to believe that Bet Regal, at least, who are the only folks that have this line available, kind of think a lot of the defensive starters for Toronto aren't going to play. And the reason for that, of course, is that the Toronto Argos, by their win last week against Hamilton, 31-12, I believe it was, till down in my notes, it was 31-12 win. They clinched the East Division, which means they clinched that first round bye directly into the East Division final in the CFL playoffs. So Toronto legitimately has absolutely nothing to play for. And even with all that, they're still 3.5-point favorites over Edmonton. That's how bad this season has gone for the Elks. Speaking of the Elks, they have not won a football game since the 6th of September. That was against the Week 5 version of the Calgary Stampeders. You remember the Week 5 Stampeders? They wouldn't give Kadeem Carey the ball. Bo Levi Mitchell was throwing like 3 interceptions a game. You remember those Stampeders? It's been a long season. The Elks have to play 3 games in 7 days. That started with the game last week, which of course they lost. It was a close game, though. It was the last game of the week against Saskatchewan. I think it was a 5-point game. So, I mean, it was a tight game. They played that game. They play on Tuesday, and then they play again on Friday. So that's 3 games in the span of 7 days. That's a brutal, brutal run. The REDBLACKS had to do something similar earlier in the year. So, of course, given that the Toronto Argos cannot improve their position can't get any worse, they cannot move from where they are, it begs the question, who's going to play? They know they've got a bye week in their back pocket, so they know they're going to have that opportunity to rest everybody. Now the question is, do you rest some people 2 weeks in a row? Are you worried about any kind of additional rust or fatigue setting in, any more rust than you've seen all season long, given that this league didn't play last year? I would not be shocked one little bit if AJ Ouellette winds up getting the start at running back. Give John White and DJ Foster both the opportunity to get that extra rest and be healthy for the playoffs. Wouldn't be surprised if McLeod Bethel-Thompson does not play in this game. That would leave the starting quarterback duties, I believe, to Antonio Pipkin. Or alternatively, do they sort of treat this like a preseason game? Kind of like I was talking about with Winnipeg over the last few weeks. Do they treat this as like, okay, let the starters prepare as if they're going to play this game and maybe have them play the first half or have them play the first quarter just to keep that repetition and that preparation in there? Is it possible they treat the game something like that and then have the backups come in either in the second half or the second quarter? And in terms of the Elks, when in this stretch of 3 games in 7 days are we actually going to be able to see Nick Arbuckle? Like, he's been practicing with the team. I think he was a full participant in practice last week and still didn't dress. But do we get to see Nick Arbuckle at all in the tail end here of the 2021 season? I have to imagine we're going to see him either in this game or their other game this week, which, by the way, we'll preview the rest of the week when we actually do the CFL pick show for week 16. I had seen something come up, and I don't want to be the one that this is attributed to, but I have to pass it along because it was something that I happened to see come up. I had seen somewhere, and someone had mentioned something about the possibility that Nick Arbuckle might not be vaccinated. Now, I'm not making a moral judgment on that. I'm not getting into that. But what I'm saying is that would kind of explain, I guess, why we haven't seen him even dress for games. And we've seen him like get work in after practices or prior to games. But most of what we've seen of him, he's been working by himself. From the trade over, he may have been subject to some kind of quarantine rule that we're not exactly apprised of. And again, this may not be the case at all. It was just, I'm trying to find some reason to explain in my brain why the Elks, who are apparently a cash-strapped franchise, would make this trade for a relatively expensive third-string quarterback, basically, at this point. Like, why he wouldn't at least be dressing for these games. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and that's not the case at all. If it is, then I apologize. It was just something that I had heard, and just kind of speculating why we're not seeing him. So obviously, massive question marks, kind of like the last time we had to do a Tuesday game, massive question marks over who plays and who doesn't. And I think when you're talking about names like James Wilder and Greg Ellingson, they're not even participating in practice yet. I don't see any reason why you put them back out there for another game and risk maybe making their injuries worse. It's a lost season. I don't think you'll see either one of them. I think if the Argos had the choice, they probably wouldn't even show up for this game. I understand it's a game at home. You want to leave your fans happy at the tail end of the regular season heading into the playoffs. I can understand that. But they have no motivation to have to win this game. The Elks are a team playing for pride. That they're a team, at the very least, that wants to show something at the end of the year. They don't want this season to end having their last win be back in friggin' September. Like, they don't. That's not something that they want to have happen. So I think I'm going to take Edmonton in this game just because it could be a parade of backups for the Argos, and maybe the backups are good enough to beat Edmonton no matter who plays quarterback for Edmonton. But I like what I've seen from Walter Fletcher, the couple of starts that he's gotten. I think Edmonton showed last week that they're capable of scoring more points than maybe I'm giving them credit for. I'm going to take the Elks here to win this game outright, which means I'm also going to take the Elks plus 3.5 against the spread, as of course they come into this game 3.5-point dogs. I don't think it's smart to have to buy that extra half point in this situation. On that total, I can't bring myself to go over on that total. Maybe all of Toronto's defensive starters don't play, and we might see 60 points in this game. The way the CFL has gone this year, I can't take an over on that number. So we're going to go under the 49.5 points. One more time, I'm taking the Elks to win the game outright, which means I'm taking Edmonton plus 3.5 against the spread in a game that stays under 49.5 points. That's my pick for Tuesday Night Football. Enjoy that game. I hope you did very well in Week 15. I know I did, but we will talk about that when we do the actual episode for Week 16 of the CFL Football Pick Show. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. We're not fueled by nerd teas today because it's just a quick little video. I just wanted to get my pick out for this game where I wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. Enjoy the game coming up on Tuesday night, and we will see you again in just a couple of days for the Week 16 episode, the final week of the CFL regular season before we head into the playoffs. Very exciting times. We'll see you then.